After a little bit of a break, we are back. Sorry for the lack of videos as of late. I unfortunately have been very busy with WGP Tokyo last weekend, and after that I got a little bit sick for a couple days, and I basically didn't have much of a voice. But luckily we're back to full health, I think, for the most part. At least I sound fine, so that's good. But today we're going to be continuing our sort of ranked climb series slash showing off decks in Dear Days today with Pure Light Prison, one of my actual main decks, IRL as well. Alright, we're going to be going up against Honna, playing Orphis potentially, we'll see. I just played against an Orphis player in ladder. So the Zaxa skin, I respect. Let's take a look at what they're going to be bringing to the table. Alright, we're going first. Very good, of course. We'll always have to go first. So, opening hand. Basically, this is actually a pretty good opening hand. Your most important target is Pure Light. You have to have Pure Light. Second is Chevalstad. So if you don't have Pure Light, Mulligan 5. Like, simple as that. But then if you have these two already, and you have like an Accused Macarite, you keep that, and you don't want to put too much stuff back because of the risk of actually drawing into your prison. Because if you do, that means you can't search it with your Ride deck because you only play one copy. So keep that in mind. That's just like one little thing. Here we can actually ditch the Perio, to be honest. We're not going to need her too much. We're playing this Celestial, potentially. Of course, this could be just a random starter to throw us off. We're going to find the Prison, add it to the hand from the Grade 1 effect, and we're going to just set it immediately, because we can rest the Vanguard for the cost, and then the Prison will be soul charging us 3. Let's see what we find off the top. PG, draw, draw. Not too bad, honestly. Soul charging draws, or the, you know, or like normal units is not as bad as like soul charging crits and heals. And you know, you're playing against Celestial. This is a deck that actually, like, I'll sometimes forget what it does and get destroyed in tournaments. Like, Celestial packs a really big punch and like makes everything have a crit for some reason, just like out of nowhere with this card. So I'm going to be on standby for that potentially happening. We're going to take this because I don't have a 50k shield to drop for defenses. Gonna hit a draw. That's fine. Do they soul charge OT? No. Oh, they bound. Oh wow, they actually show White Wings and Black Wings actually on the thing here. That's the first time I'm playing against Celestial in ranked. So this is the first time I see the White Wings Black Wings symbol over there. So both effects are alive. We have a 50k shield. That's good. We can ditch the draw here. So we're going to use the Risat's Pink effect here to make my opponent choose a card from hand and imprison it. Alright, they're going to give us an Elkel. She's a pretty good card. So, you can actually call this out on turn 2 by Soul Blasting 1, and then use that Bind effect immediately, which is really strong. So here we don't really have a reason to push or like call down any other resources. Generally speaking, you play quite minimal on your early turns until you reach Pure Light, because everything in your hand is a combo piece that is building towards Pure Light. We check a heal, which is pretty good. We're gonna lose our 1 CB that we have that we want to use on Chevalstad next turn, but still a heal is a heal. We always like that. Alright, sees defensive crit. Every LSL build is mixed wings now? Yeah, for the most part. So my opponent here has a really smooth game plan, because the Ride line will put this back to deck, I believe, but they can basically call this out of my prison now by using the Soul Blast 1 ability to just keep doing this. So when she plays the Vanguard Circle, she chooses a card from the Bind Zone, puts it in the bottom of the deck, and then binds the top card of the deck face up. So gonna be binding a Grade 2, so Black Wings will be active, which means we can play Black Wings. So this will not allow me to trigger against the Guardian Circle. So thank God I healed there. This will make things a bit easier. So now she can Soul Blast 1 and just call this out as an attacker, knowing that I'm probably going to imprison it next turn as well, which is, honestly, yes, I will, because I don't want to get absolutely stomped and actually try to prevent this ability from going off. So now I cannot guard with triggers. As you can see, they're not selectable. So actually, you have to just basically take this, see if we hit defensive. I almost want 2 counterblast for this next turn. So let's see. Simo, that's right. We are playing. How about we play Black Wings? Alright, we don't hit a defensive, which is not actually that bad, because I actually want a second CB here. Does this have an on hit though? It has an on attack effect to give my Vanguard minus 5k. Gonna choose not to do that. I appreciate it. We're gonna take this one. I want to use both counterblast this turn. Try to burn one on the Chevalstad maybe. Technically don't have to. And we're gonna call down... We're gonna guard with a Perio here, I think. Because we're not gonna need her too much. We've already seen most of our Perios, but I think we're fine to guard with this. Because I want to keep the 15Ks for later turns, because this board's gonna get annoying. just saying, you know? Oh, we draw into another Pure Light. That's very good. Alright, sadly here our hand is kind of requiring us to drop a trigger to ride up, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. Let's go into Seraph Snow. And this will allow us to imprison 2 cards from the field by counterblasting 1. There we go. It's weird how like it doesn't show the right card in like the full art, per se. So we imprison those 2. And then we're going to call down the Accused Macarite here to use her skill to Soul Blast 1 and imprison the top card of my opponent's deck, which will now give me the 3rd drive check on Seraph Snow, which means we can basically swing with Vanguard first, and we've only seen like 3 triggers, I think. If even. Yeah, we've seen 3 triggers so far. I know, 4 or 5 with the Soul Charge, let's not forget that. So here you could make a point for attacking with rear first, but if we like worst case check the OT, you want to put that pressure on the rear. My opponent's going to take this no matter what. They want the extra counterblast here as well, I think. So let's see. Yeah, what's up, Mr. Light? Welcome. Alright, they're no guarding. First check, another Accused Macarite. That's good for next turn. We do appreciate that. Second check, we have our Aggro Rouge. And third check, it's going to be nothing. Alright, so going to be just 1 damage going in here. No extra effects by any means. Tomari going to show up for that cut-in animation. And you get the cool little animation from Seraph Snow as well. Let's see if my opponent hits a trigger. They do! So it's going to shut down my rearguard swing. But it's not the end of the world. We pushed 2 damage. I mean, we've pushed the 2nd damage in, basically. And we're basically trying to play the long game. Like, when you're playing Prison, don't just focus on dealing 6 damage as your win con. Decking your opponent out is part of your win cons, too. So, that's very important. Ooh, my opponent has the Celestial LSR. That's very pretty. I wonder if they crafted that or if they got it. So, they're going to bind up. And now... So they still have Black Wings enabled. So basically what she does is, on White Wings, she gets 5k in a crit. And on Black Wings, all of my units lose 5k power, which is tragic. For me, of course. Alright, and then this on Black Wings can attack from the back row, which is very strong. Alright, and then luckily the skill timing for this card has been missed, because when your Vanguard is placed. Alright, and this also gets power. Good lord. Alright, we're gonna intercept this one. I think we might have to eat the Vanguard swing, because it's a bit hard to guard when we're at minus power. So, or not minus power, was that 8k power? So let's see. Because if we drop a 15, we just go to 23, so still want to pass. Yeah, there's no extra crit here, so we're gonna just take this one, and then we can use Pure Light. Unfortunately, opponent doesn't have any Soul, unless they use this card, because I think the other grade 3 they have does go to Soul. They check a heal, which is actually effective. Yeah, so she goes to Soul. Alright, my opponent going down to 1 is actually quite annoying, but... It's not the end of the world, it's not the end of the world. Alright, gonna go to 3. Ooh, OT, not exactly where I wanted to see it. I could have used actually another counterblast here. So this is actually not the best timing for the OT, because also this means he won't use this effect, so he will not have a Soul for me to take with Pure Light. We have 2 Pure Lights, so it's fine. We still want to go into this. So, let's go into it anyway. And see what we can take out of this hand, too. So, you saw about the Pure Light. I mean, the regular Seraph. 4 Pure Lights effect. And then see what my opponent gives me from the rearguard circles. Apart from this, we can basically now, we have 2 cards in prison. We will go to 6 here. And we can effectively... If they give me a back row and a front row, I can then call the Aggro Rouge to imprison the last front row. So this allows me to go to 8 cards and just try to push my opponent to 3, basically. We're not trying to go too far this turn. We're basically just slowly getting there. And honestly, once you reach Pure Light, your Chevalstad aren't boosters anymore. You basically just use them as attackers at that point, because as you can see now we're at 8 cards in prison, so we have plus 20k to the front row. So it's going to be 35, 33, and 35. So big numbers. that should be pretty difficult for my opponent to guard. And of course, we still have Pure Lights in the deck that we're trying to find off of these triple drives. Another important thing with Grade 4 is, of course, that they have triple drive, as we showed with Nirvana in the past. Alright. Cuff Spring is good for later, but I'm not seeing many triggers. I mean, that OT was nice. This crit is also very nice. It's going to push them all the way to 3 in one attack. So that is huge. So this pushes to 3, and then we're going to try to maybe even get them to 4 with the rear guards. Of course, with every CB you give, that means you give them a chance to free 2 cards from the prison, so you're kind of putting yourself a bit back to square one, but it's not the end of the world. And we have the beautiful Pure Light animation. Alright, PG, that's good to see. Go to damage, followed by a grade 2. Okay, no trigger, so this is going to be pretty hard for my opponent to guard as well. And we've been able to kind of shut down this card the entire time, so that's also very important. Because that is a very powerful card, because it basically turns on White Wings and Black Wings effects for Celestial, which is what our opponent's playing here. Alright, they're going to guard this one. They're probably going to take this reguard swing, go to 4. I don't mind the fact that my heals are whiffing at this point. I'm more so afraid of there being like guard restricts and crits all over the board going forward. Alright. Opponent's going to go to 4 with 6 cards in hand, 7 going into the next turn. No triggers, okay. So I'm a little bit worried about them checking a bunch on offense, but we'll see where that goes. Alright, do they have Persona Ride? They do. That's pretty strong. So, and it's another LSR. So at the beginning of the main phase, this is going to go to hand, I believe. Yeah, so the heal goes to hand. They're going to bind a grade 2, so they're still going to be on Black Wings. So all of my units are still minus 5k power. And they're going to be using the prison now to basically empty it out. So if they know what they're doing, they're going to be overcalling their units. Like, the way to beat prison is to overcall the stuff you free from prison. That doesn't look like it. That looks like they want to keep those on the board. But let's see. Let's see what the case is really going to be. Alright, Calmasting 1 to free 2. What are we calling out? But damn, Celestial. I love the dedication. You know, the multiple LSRs. What does this one do? When placed from hand, okay, it doesn't matter then, we're fine. Ooh, and this is the crit giver. So on the White Wings, so sadly this is not active right now. So I think they're trying to wait for me to imprison. They're gonna give this card to me in with the prison, and then they're gonna give crit to everything. So it's actually pretty scary. We're gonna guard against this. So 4 attack Celestial is the play here basically. Which is still pretty scary. Put them, and then I think the Vanguard swing we're going to just take. Luckily, the Agro Rouge is a 15k shield too, which is pretty nice. Is this a Vanguard swing? I'm expecting this to be a Vanguard swing because you can basically pressure me to take this, so I will no guard it. I mean, 9 cards in hand too, so I'm in a pretty comfortable position. There's a good one again. It's going to be good for next turn. It's going to be at 9 cards in hand, so even after a Pure Light, it's going to be at 7 cards in hand. 1 soul that I can try to take away, though, which is good. It is good. If anything, I want another Counterblast for this turn. I want to go to 4 damage so that I am in heal range myself here. So we're going to take one of these swings. 31k anyway, so if anything, I want to hit a defensive somewhere here to make this a bit easier to guard. Let's take it. There we go. And then here, I think we can potentially call down the Agro Rouge to fill up the prison a bit harder. We get a heal, not exactly where I want it, but this will help guarding the last attack, so can't complain about that too much. White Wing Supremacy, yeah. Gemma Yusen, one of our Twitch mods here, is a big fan of the Celestial deck, a big advocate for it. Ooh, attacking into the Agro Rouge. I will allow that. I have enough replacements for next turn, so I'm not too bothered about losing the 15k shield here, because I'd have to give up more than that to guard it, so that's kind of how you have to think. Like, is giving up 2 cards to save 1 card worth it when you have better alternatives, right? Alright, let's go to Pure Light again. So, of course, she's one of the only... I think she's the only grade 4 that only works when you ride her. So you really have to keep drawing into multiples. Alright, here we go. It's time. Yeah, we could go to 5 to 9 heal, but here we're going to basically be at 9 cards in prison from 1 soul, 2 rears, and 2 cards in hand. So basically with 1 Cuff Spring or 1 Cheval Stud, I will be at 10 cards in prison, which means the crit is going to be live. So I can just swing for lethal here, which is really good. So, At this point, we're going to give up the fact that, yes, this card is going to go off next turn, but I think we've basically denied it enough time that that's fine, basically. We've reached the point where this is fine. We're going to basically now make my opponent give up a card from hand into the prison, and then draw one, which will get us to 10 cards in the prison. There you go. It's a lot of good cards in there. Some triggers, some triggers. Alright, and here we can basically just call out a Chevalstad. I kind of want to keep the Cuff Spring for next turn if my opponent starts, like, emptying out the prison very aggressively. Because this is still 35 and this will be 33. So we're still hitting for really big numbers, asking for 2 card guards across the board. I don't want to commit to this one last CB here for Chevalstad though, because if, let's say, I draw into a Pure Light next turn, and my opponent chokes me at 4 and I don't get the Counterblast here, that means I will not be able to go into Pure Light. So we don't really need the draw because our hand is already healthy. We're going to go to 10 cards in hand here. So we're going to just swing with the extra crit with 38, and my opponent will have to basically start dropping PGs. And we know one of them went to the damage zone. I think one went here as well, if I'm not mistaken. No, never mind. There's just one in the damage zone. Dropping a Persona Ride as well, which probably means they already have the extra copy they need in hand too. So it's pretty good. Alright, we do find the Pure Light for next turn, so it's good that we didn't use the CB for Chevalstad because we just don't need it, right? We just don't need it. We're going to basically rip out my opponent's entire hand with just these 3 attacks. And then next turn, you know, no matter what kind of offense they launch at us, we have the defense to guard ourselves. We have 1 PG and multiple triggers in hand as well. Whereas my opponent will be like passing like a 1-card hand here, so we're definitely doing a good job with what we are given this turn. And so as you can see, like, you don't really need to aim to get to 10 prison on the first Pure Light turn. You're trying to make sure that you can find the connective tissue to draw into the second Pure Light to make sure you have it on the second turn to have this difference. 10 cards in hand versus 1. And it's like, okay, we are comfortably surviving another turn. Has the Persona Ride, so that is perfectly fine. You could make an argument that, like, oh, maybe you should have gone all out and like made a, you know, 18k column and 18k column here for better numbers. And that's honestly a valid point, but I'm in a comfortable position where I know I can basically strip my opponent of resources next turn. Like, you don't have to tunnel vision too much into that because, you know, what if it doesn't work out? What if they do have enough shield and you use all of your resources there? Whereas next turn, even if my opponent frees stuff, I can have the next Pure Light or the cards like Cuff Spring and Chevalstad to refill back up to 10, even if they like free 2 or 3 cards, like 2, 3, or 4 cards this turn as well. So let's take a look. They are going to be doing just that. They're now on both white and black wings, so that means they can also kind of do the same thing back to me if they have the grade 1. They do not have it though. Alright, now I'm going to swing with Vanguard first. I think here these are 31, so in terms of guarding, they are the same. This one's 33, so it's a little bit higher. We only have 1 PG, so it's a little bit scarier, but I think we do ditch the PG for this swing because 2 to passing it is just a bit too scary because it has that extra crit attached to it. So we're going to PG this, dropping one of our Chevalstads for the cost. So if they check OT, so be it. So be it. Oh, the grade 1 Order PG is going to be pretty good for surviving. Alright, it's going to be blank checks, so we are still fine. And the PG is going to protect us. And now, let's see if my opponent is going to be swinging at rears or swinging at face here. Alright, we can intercept this one pretty easily. Cuff Spring is an on-place ability, so we just want to replace her as soon as possible here to get to our big amount of prison. If anything, I think swinging rear and passing is probably the right play here. Oh yeah, right, you have another 5 attacks. Jesus. I think I can drop the Chevalstad here as well. Yes, we will drop the Chevalstad here as well. And then basically just eat the 23. Like, the 23 is, I don't know, not too bad. Even if they swing with a 31. Oh, they swing with 31 first. Oh, because this goes to 33, right? So if anything, this is easier to guard. Actually, no, it's the same. We can take this one. We can take this one and then guard the last one. It's going to be 33. Going to go to Soul, which means we rip it out of the Soul as well. So we get 2 cards out of the Pure Light. We get a defensive, which makes guarding even easier, which is nice. Yeah, let's see. I was doing some Magnolia moves over here. Alright, so go to 18. And let's see if this is going to swing rear or Van. Probably going to go Vanguard just to force out cards from my hand. But we are a-okay with that. As long as the timer doesn't run out, that's the only thing that matters. This goes to 33. We'll drop the 2 triggers just to keep our pieces in hand, because now this is the turn where we want to drop the all offensive, and basically 5 cards in hand. It's going to go down to 3 from us riding Pure Light, and then we can draw an extra card from Chevalsa this time because we don't expect to go into Pure Light anymore this game. Going to a crit. Let's go into the final Pure Light. Most likely final Pure Light, I would want to say. How many cards do we have in deck? 13. Alright, we're still in a pretty comfortable position. Gonna use Pure Light again here to force my opponent to choose. Also, they didn't put this to Soul, which is smart. They're gonna give 1 card from Soul, 2 from hand, 2 from rear. So we're gonna go to 13 cards in prison. And then basically we can even go to 16 this turn if we want to make just completely ridiculous numbers. But again, we don't have to. We can choose to keep some cards around and chill in that sense. I think I will use Chevalsa here just to draw an extra card just to see what we can find off the top and just to get rid of this. Yep. Just get rid of this. Go to 14 cards in prison. Agra Rouge is a defensive card that we can use, so that's pretty good. And the other nice thing of Cuff Spring and Agra Rouge is that, oh, not Agra Rouge, Cuff Spring and Accused Macarite is that they can both deck your opponent out because they force cards out of your opponent's deck without them interacting with that. So that is pretty huge. So 50, 48, 43. I think we're fine to just launch the offensive here. 48 coming in to the face. 3 cards in my opponent's hand. I know they have 1 PG in hand, but do they have more than that? Because this person is looking mighty full. And the best thing about this PG is that they don't have to pay the cost for it either. So they are going to guard this. And then we will see what else they have in here. Alright, Cuff Spring. What's next? A heal, so we go down to 4, which is pretty good. Definitely appreciative of that. Give the power here, make this 53. Still have a 1 more drive check to see what we're gonna find. Another heal trigger, which will go off, we will go down to 3. That is very impressive. We can give this here. 53 is technically 3 15s from hand, so they do not have that by any means. So with that, their only out here is 2 grade 1 PGs, which I know for a fact they do not have. So 1... Alright, they have... I think that's the last PG, so I think this final swing will seal the deal. But they are in heal range, so if they still have heals in deck, then that will decide it. Alright, 60k going into the face. This needs to be perfect guarded or over triggered. We'll also do, you know, the deal to guard this. I think they haven't seen their over trigger yet, so this could be, yep, a defensive over trigger. And the crazy thing is, we're still fine. Like, the craziest part is that we are still fine because of this. Like, they still have the OT, and I was well aware of that, but now they have 5 cards in deck. This effect forces them to go down to 4 cards in deck. If they choose to attack with the Vanguard, they go down to 2 cards in deck, and then I can basically just use 2 Cuff Springs to deck them out and win. So we're basically in a checkmate situation where I don't think I can lose. Of course, depending on how they move. Alright, so let's see. So yeah, there is a potential criticism that my opponent should have just taken the first attack and then they would have hit the OT. If they knew the OT was still in there, they could have just taken that prey to hit the OT, because sometimes that is your out, right? Just hitting the OT at some point of this defensive turn. Ooh, alright, Black Wings is active. I think here we're going to go for the big defense and basically just make sure this doesn't hit no matter what. So I don't need CB anymore. I don't care about counterblasting at all. I'm overguarding like crazy, but I'm just making sure that does not connect by any means. So this way we can just Cuff Spring twice and just have a clean deck out victory. This crit doesn't really change anything, because I can actually afford to take 2 damage. My opponent cannot afford to take any cards, period. So that is also quite nice. We can potentially call final turn because there's 0% chance of it failing because of the 2 Cuff Springs in hand. So this is what I mean. That, you know, you have these outs, right? Right, my opponent, I think we might as well just take these, to be honest. It's a 2 crit swing. We will just take it, I think, and then it'll be easier to guard the rest if we hit at least 1 defensive. So there's the defensive. I think my opponent should have guarded with the lower powers first. I mean, attacked with the lower powers first, just to, you know, because I'm on 8k base due to the Black Wings build. Second check, nothing. That's fine, we're already at 18, so this means that this is the only thing I can hit, I think. Alright, so let's see if my opponent's going to just swing at rear. That is correct. We're going to no-guard that. That can go into the rear. Alright. And then that is basically all she wrote for my opponent. I think one criticism there is basically just swinging with these two. If possible. Alright, let's do the final turn call, because there's no way that we will lose this turn. Unless I like misclick and fumble super bad somehow. But the extra VP does matter. Extra packs, extra cards. We play efficiently. And then my opponent... Oh yeah, true, this does... Oh, this does cost... No, this doesn't cost soul. I can attack just like that. Alright, and then the final card, to seal the deal, the second Cuff Spring, which will force my opponent to deck themselves out. So with that, that's going to be game. That is basically a showcase of how to play Prison, and how to control your opponent's resources, and find the, you know, the out, basically, against your opponent. You can basically apply this to any deck that you play against, which is also really cool. So hopefully you got something out of that game, and that is Prison. Alright, so that has been Prison. I hope you enjoyed that showcase, basically showing off the kind of control capabilities of the deck, and kind of just how you can play in terms of tempo, and like denying your opponent's costs, and just kind of how you can freeze your opponent and reach that 10 Prison. Of course, the better your opponent is, the more they'll know how to play around it, and you have to just keep evolving your game plan to be able to keep up with that as well. So with that, if you enjoyed this ranked deck showcase, make sure to give it a like. As always, I really do appreciate it, and let me know in the comments which decks you want to see next. I'm going to continue trying to finish up all of these start decks, as we still have Bastion, as well as Bruce and Magnolia to go, and then of course cover as many other decks in Dear Days as possible. But I'm feeling better now, no longer sick, and so of course I can get back to pumping out content for Dear Days and Zero and the TCG and all other great stuff as well. So let me know in the comments what you want to see next. But otherwise, that's gonna be it for me today. If you liked the video, give it a like. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And otherwise, I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.